Now, Jermall Charlo is moving up to 168 pounds. He
Mm-hmm.
wants to fight David Benavidez. I got some thoughts on that, but I got to ask you, Peter, why do you think he's inclined to do that?
I mean, look, first of all, I think it's a good idea because he is a big middleweight. He's a big guy.
Yes, he is.
And, you know, we've talked about that. And I've had the opportunity, like I said, in December when Dennis Hogan fought him, to spend a lot of time during, you know, fight week and that whole buildup. And even fighting, I mean, Jermall Charlo's a big middleweight. He was a big junior middleweight. He's a big middleweight. He has the height and the size to be successful at super middleweight. And I also think that it allows him to continue to chase the likes of Canelo. It opens the door to Daniel Jacobs. It also opens the door to Caleb Plant. Obviously, he's looking at Benavidez as a pathway to a world title. All of those fighters that we named, except for Canelo, reside under the PBC banner, and Jacobs. Yeah. But, you know, there's plenty of talent and champions within that PBC umbrella that really become an easy path. I don't see Charlo taking a super middleweight tune-up. I see him going straight into a world title fight. The WBC will certainly probably allow him to do that, to challenge, being that he's a world champion at middleweight. But I think it's an entertaining idea. I think it allows him to pursue the multi-divisional championship goals. You know, he enters a new category of fighter that becomes 3 division, which, I mean, it's really impressive.
Yes.
So, and I also believe that success at super middleweight will open the door for him to go to light heavyweight, where I really believe he could compete. So I really don't see it as a bad thing. I think that at middleweight, if these fights that the public would like to see aren't happening, you know, like I said, why not move up and look for some of these other world title fights? I mean, I think the super middleweight division has, like we talked about last week, very competitive, some really great opportunities. And I also think it's where Canelo might settle in, and where Jermall Charlo might have a better opportunity of landing a fight like that. Oh, in addition, I can't believe I left out Callum Smith, Billy Joe Saunders. I mean, there's a lot of big fights at that weight.
That's a scary fight too. I think everybody against Callum Smith right now is a scary fight. But the other thing I think that you didn't mention that I also think is a factor is him and his twin brother, Jermall, are seemingly always very conscious of making sure that they're not in the same weight class for long. And Jermall has not moved up from 154 to 160. But for Jermall to say that he is makes me think that at some point soon, Jermall may move up to 160 and then start to compete at 160, so that whole dynamic isn't there. I saw a video of them, an interview some years ago, and someone had asked them, would they be willing to fight? I mean, obviously, identical twins, it's probably natural that they'd fight in the same weight class, but not automatic. And I remember one of the brothers was like, yeah, I'd do it. The other one was like, absolutely not. There is no way I'm fighting him. I would never do that. And so I noticed over the years, both brothers started to say, no, we won't fight each other. And I've always liked that. It's one thing that I really respected about the Klitschko's, that they would not allow boxing and the boxing promoters and even the fans to influence them in a way that pushed them into fighting each other. I noticed with Mike and Jerry Quarry were basically put into a position where they fought each other for the right to challenge Muhammad Ali, basically the right to go get beat up by Muhammad Ali. And Jerry Quarry won that fight, and he's the one who took the beating from Ali. He also took the payday, of course. But they always talked about how much of stress and it put on their mother to watch that fight and to have that go on. So I think about that same sort of thing when I think about the Charlo. So I also think that could be a factor in it as well, too, just not being in the same weight class as Jermall. So I don't know if that's something that you've even become aware of, or if that's something. I mean, how would you feel if you were potentially set up to fight your brother you know, would you,
Right.
how would you?
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. I mean, it's a really
Yeah.
good point. I didn't really think about it, but yeah, I mean, I never even mentally anticipated the Klitschko's ever fighting each other, nor would I think or encourage the Charlos to fight each other. I just don't think it's, you know, feasible anyway. So it's not like two sisters competing against each other in tennis. It's a whole different ball game. So, you know, look, I think it's a good idea. And if Jermall is moving up, you know, that's also a good idea. Anytime guys move up and challenge themselves and add some new competition to a division where there are other options and other fights to make, go for it.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's a very good idea for him to move up. I also think it'd be a good idea for Jermall to move up. I would like to see one of them or both of them meet Jared Hurd at some point. I think that's just a fight that just always made sense. We didn't get a chance to see it because, of course, Hurd lost to J-Rock, and then Charlo lost to Tony Harrison, even though he avenged that loss. Now, you know, now that J-Rock is lost, it would seem that if Hurd is going to regain his title, which I can't understand why in the world Jared Hurd is still fighting at 154. Jared Hurd looks like a heavyweight if you see him. But it is what it is. So we'll see what happens, but it's an interesting dynamic. But yeah, I'm looking, you guys know, everybody knows I'm a big fan of the Charlos just overall. I love to see them become bigger parts of what goes on in the sport. I think that they would be good for the sport if given bigger platforms. So we'll see what happens.